All right, time for UpFront Fridays, a look at the week in Wisconsin politics. And the week ends with a major Friday news dump from the state Supreme Court. Conservative Justice Rebecca Bradley announcing today she will not seek a second term. Liberal appeals judge Chris Taylor has already announced she's running for that spot on the bench next April. And with Susan Crawford's win last April, liberals secured a majority on the bench through at least 2028. They could further cement that advantage if they win what will now be an open seat in 2026. And we welcome in Matt Smith, of course, the executive producer and host of UpFront, along with the political director at WISN TV. So here you go, Matt, big Friday news dump. Rebecca Bradley not going to seek that second term on the court. What do you think an open seat means for conservatives right now?
That's a great question at this point. I think the initial thought is this is a blow to conservatives as we look ahead to the race that is now quickly approaching in April. Chris Taylor, a liberal candidate, has already entered the race. We know that there's some chatter among potential candidates, but Republicans, conservatives feel like this probably was their best chance to win. And this race isn't going to flip the majority, but conservatives need to keep it, and they need to win next year in order for them to remain competitive. Otherwise, it's going to become incredibly lopsided for liberal justices. So, yes, a surprise today, I think, when people saw it, but when you started looking behind the scenes at the fundraising and some of the conversations, not that big of a surprise to some who follow this that this became the conclusion of Justice Rebecca Bradley today.
All right, Matt, I was going to ask you about some of those tea leaves, and certainly fundraising was one of them, because it was several months ago she told WisPolitics, I fully intend to run, and then it's kind of been crickets, right, from her?
It has, and that was right after Susan Crawford's win. And I know there were a lot of internal discussions going on. And listen, conservatives have looked at the last two elections, and they've seen the numbers, right? A 10-point win, an 11-point win for the liberal justices in just these last two races. So I think she alluded to this in her statement a lot in terms of a path to victory. She kind of went after conservatives a little bit as well, and she indicated that she feels she can do better to help the party outside of the state Supreme Court. So it's going to be fascinating to see what she does with her future, and then how this race now shapes up, and if it is as high profile, since it is now another open race in Wisconsin.
High profile, will it also be as high priced as previous ones after the last two set records? Let's turn our attention to all the politics that was going on in the western part of the state this week. Matt, you were doing a road trip out there. You were in La Crosse yesterday with the vice president. J.D. Vance was there. Why La Crosse? Why was the vice president in La Crosse?
So, just look at the 3rd Congressional District, and that's all you need to know as we look ahead to the midterms. Congressman Derek Van Orden currently holds the seat. He won it by about 3 points in the last election. But listen, this is going to be one of the most expensive, one of the most closely watched House districts in the country for Republicans to hold on to. Democrats are coming in guns a-blazing nationally with a lot of money, trying to unseat Van Orden. So this is kind of a prelude to what we're going to see over the next year ahead of the midterms. In western Wisconsin, it's a key swing area, especially in some of these counties. So that in and of itself was the reason. As the vice president, his main goal, the main selling point for the visit was to sell the president's big, beautiful bill, as Republicans have been attempting to do when they've been home all August.
And in advance of his appearance yesterday, Governor Evers putting out a release essentially slamming that bill. And then he was here in Gillett yesterday. Same thing. Is that a slippery slope for him, Matt? Because earlier this week, after FEMA finished all their evaluations, he submitted requests for that presidential declaration to get some federal funds. We have seen this White House not react well to being antagonized.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how that plays out. J.D. Vance was also asked about that federal request as it now kind of works its way through the system. We're seeing a lot of numbers being thrown out on both sides of this debate, Republicans and Democrats, of the big, beautiful bill. And especially when you look at some of the changes to Medicaid or food share, the interesting part of it is none of the implementation of this is going to take effect until after the midterm elections. That was purposeful. But up until then, it's going to kind of be a game of speculation from both ends in terms of how many people can be helped or how many people can be hurt. So I think what we're going to see, and we kind of saw this in this debate that played out in the last 24 hours, is just a whole bunch of data thrown at us. And at times, it could be hard to decipher what actually is potentially true in all of the numbers.
All right, let's get back to the western part of the state and your road trip, the annual Democratic corn roast. I'm not sure people around here are familiar with it, but essentially some of the big names in 2026 Democratic races, especially for governor, were there. Give us a preview of what we're going to learn on Sunday.
Yeah, this was my first time there. This is a big deal for Democrats in western Wisconsin. Kind of the week before Labor Day, marking the end of summer. It used to be hosted by Ron Kind, longtime congressman in that district, and now State Senator Brad Pfaff has kind of taken it over to kind of continue the tradition. It's a fundraiser for Democrats, and as we saw, and as you're going to see Sunday, it is one of the first big stops for Democratic potential candidates. We're talking about candidates for governor, the Milwaukee County Executive, State Senator Calder Royce, for example, and also candidates for the House District. They have a few minutes to make a speech. They, of course, are shaking hands, eating corn, eating brats, drinking some beer. I mean, everything Wisconsin.
Tough
just
assignment,
kind of
Matt.
one room. Yeah, and you're going to see it all. So we kind of take you an inside look. It's a fascinating, grassroots campaigning is still alive in Wisconsin, and it's a fun little piece that's going to take you inside this Labor Day weekend.
All right, we will look forward to that. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Matt, thanks so much.
Sounds good. Have a good weekend.
And of course, you can see UpFront this and every Sunday morning, 10 a.m., right here on WBAY TV.